Hello everyone and welcome back to Wargame Red Dragon. We have a 3v3 for you guys today, a nice big team game, and 5 of us were on Discord together, so everyone except for Jaeger90 Enjoyer, who I think did take a look at joining the Discord after the game, so unfortunately not for this one, but he does hang around for another game as well, so that one will be recorded and cast in a couple days probably. And I'm headed toward Boris right off the bat. I have a questionable decision here, my favorite Hilo Hunter for North Korea headed up and forward trying to zone things out, and my intention is to be very, very aggressive with this zone. I don't want to be holding back and doing a late game push. I'm trying to do what was done to me by the South Africans all that time ago and just push right through, getting into Boris, cutting off my opponent there, and keeping the zone for the rest of the game. So to do that, I have a bunch of WZ 551s. These guys are very fast, 15 points of course, but with an autocannon that's not amazing, but also not terrible, and I do have also a couple of scout tanks. They're not South African tanks, they don't have wheels, and that I think makes a big difference here, as they do take a while to get up and into the party, but the MiG is able to get 1 kill and evac ordered. So you can see we have pasted a couple of helicopters all over the side of this field. I think they were Bose ATGM helicopters, and I went for those instead of the Lynx, just because I wanted my recon tanks to survive. So already calling out some mechanized reinforcements here with BTRs, but we'll take a look at this in just on a second. Der Monarch is going to be holding in Anna. This was his first multiplayer Red Dragon. He has played Airland Battle, I think, for a while, but his first 4 Red Dragons indeed, which that's interesting. It's going to be a learning experience here. Tanka Shasha moving up, some Jianshui and Li Ren, Jianxi rather, and Li Ren, and some pretty nice fire support as well, but a large mechanized push from my aptly named opponent, Crippling Depression. And in the meanwhile, we have Computer, who's not actually Computer, who's going to be fighting against Jaegery90. Now, for a little while, Jaegery did think that this was a legit Computer player, which was kind of funny. He put in the chat, what the fuck is this? Who is this Computer? Yeah, it was a person. You'll see that sometimes people make names that's they're meant to sort of provide consternation to their opponents. And right off the bat here, we have gotten into the far side town, but Nordland's Jaegeri are a very nice force, lots of Dragoner as well. I mean, just tons of cheap infantry for the Blue 4 player, and Crippling Depression is going to get me again. Oh, I said it. But Crippling Depression is putting up a very nice defense here. My ZTQs are getting persistent fire support, but they're not killing the targets they need to. I need to be killing that Leopard 1A5, I need to be killing these CV9030Ns, and I needed to have prevented the Stormers from getting up and into these woods, as they will threaten my tanks in the long run. Now, I do have a mortar providing smoke here, and we do also have some early sparring nearby as well in Anna, as their Monarch with his quad-stacked infantry is going to be fighting against Heinz, who is a very formidable player, if I do say so myself. Now the Fibao buy, again, a little bit questionable if I was trying to be so aggressive. I tend to do a little bit too much in the air, and these points should have been on the ground, but the Fibao is able to get out with an automatic kill, which is very nice, and the bombing run smack dab on top of all of these vehicles. If only it had come earlier, we would have been able to crush the Dragoner and been able to potentially survive this fight, as my Li Ren, Zhanxi, and Tanka Shashao are unfortunately just ground down by persistent Blue 4 infantry. So at this point, I really don't have all that much here. My mechanized infantry are getting up there too late to provide any additional help, and we are going to have to be a little bit more on the defensive than I would have liked. But, I mean, Jaegery90 Enjoyer and Computer get into it a little bit here too, and I want to show you this. So in neutral, look at the difference in deployments here. So a very traditional deployment from Computer on this side. The only thing that's a little bit weird is the Moderna in these deep woods. 160 point tank in the deep woods is always a little bit risky, and look at all the infantry. So Stuttruppen, KCT, a couple PWIs carrying them forward, as well as Leopard Verkenning, Corps Mariner, more Stuttruppen, and all of this is prepared to make life hell for us in the woods that are held by a single big tank and a couple of light infantry. So that is definitely a bunch of pain incoming, courtesy of Jaegery90 Enjoyer, a very capable player, if I do say so myself. So ZTQs taking a little bit of pain there, and one of them does go down, but the rest are retreating, and Stormer and Fallschirmjäger are able to zone us out of the woods there. I am going to be trying to punish that here soon. I mean, we'll see. Stormer are down to 6. This was, I mean, the ZTQs with T90S, they provide some good fire support, but just trying to escape. J7H is coming in, and this was interesting. So it's never a guarantee you get stuff with bombing runs. You guys have seen me miss quite often, but sending in 2 J7Hs to really carpet this whole zone. We get the Stormer off the first one and the Fallschirmjäger on the second. So at this point I could have pushed through with the ZTQ and the T90, I just didn't know it. And my BTRs I should have pulled them back, I should have been defensive with them, but I really wanted those Bochung-Su to try to push through here. If we could get the Dragoner, if we could get some of this stuff killed, there was still some hope, in my head anyway, of securing this town. But there is more reinforcements coming in. Now we have Heinz also operating, so he's held his part in the center against Der Monarch, and he's now moving forward Rovayit and Zeldas to try and reinforce, and those infantry in the woods would have fended off my tanks, who are moving backwards and trying to stay away from the fight. So, yeah, I mean, I think it was a game of inches here, and correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but at least I felt like if I had done things a little bit differently, if my bombing runs had been a little bit sooner, if I'd had, not called out the Fiebau and instead called out a couple more units of infantry and fast transports, maybe we would have been able to just barely take this town and grind through all of this infantry. And my BTRs are running out of ammunition, for goodness sake. So, we have a decent position here, we're getting some decent fire in, it's just not going to be worth it in the long run when these Dragoners stay alive and my Bochung-Su bite the proverbial bullet. So we did also spot a Moglan team and did punish him pretty severely, as well as an Oshkosh, so there was some nice artillery fire coming in that way, and it looks like that's KPZs from Der Monarch, or no, what was the artillery? Was that a bombing run? Huh, really forward bombing run, I hope it got out, but not able to quite see that this game. A couple of MFRWs. These guys, I like them in theory, I don't love them in practice, and that's just because the napalm is never as deadly as you want it to be, or as you think it is when you're looking at it. So quad stacks of Motschutzen and all 4 of those LMGs opening up, with also support from these T-72s, and Der Monarch was trying to help me on this side as well. These guys, of course, 40-point tanks, very nice fire support, 4 HE power, and they're pounding through the Rovayits and soon to be the Zeldas on this side. Machbet spotted, my MiG-29-912B Hilo Hunters going after Fennec Toe, way too deep of a dive, and the Fiebau as well is going to be curving here in just a second. The MiG-29 gets out, and the Fiebau is looking for those Machbets, but their guns are turned off, now turned back on, and shooting in. My Fiebau is going to have to be evac ordered to stay alive. No planes lost there, but that was definitely a case of better lucky than good, and now we're bringing up even more infantry, trying to just sustain this, and I think this is just going to bleed me dry the entire game, as crippling depression often does, just provide a little bit too much for most people to deal with, but that's the last one of those I'll make for a little while. Anyway, KCT and Stuttgart now moving through the woods, and you can see the Moderna and the Strop 2, both expensive pieces, and I mean, Moderna's already taken a little bit of damage. It's not going to be very easy to stem this tide here, as Computer is just having a little bit of a rough go of it against Jaeger 90 Enjoyer again. This hold does mean that there's been a fair amount of unit loss here. Formosa are a good counter. Their Pollard M frag launchers will do pretty nice work in the woods against infantry, provided that there's no armor to back them up, because these guys sent in on their own. Generally, if I use Formosa, I send in something like, I don't know, something with good anti-tank with them, so a nice other group of shock infantry usually with these guys, just to make sure that they don't get killed by things like Zeldas if I'm fighting against Israel, or similar, fighting against other sorts of nations. J7H bomber coming in, and a very nicely timed one at that. 2 Merkava 3Bs leading the way here, providing nice fire for the Rovayits and Zeldas to advance, but a bunch of bombers coming in, and that whole section does get flattened with, I think both of those planes did get out as well, so pretty nice force there, and now another bombing run, Fighting Falcon coming in, and those nice 1,000-kilogram bombs are going to be making me a very sad man. I'm trying to get the Bochung-Su out, Zanshi out, and actually it was a bit of a swing and a miss there, so my infantry are kind of okay-ish. But yeah, we were looking over at Computer for a reason. His Formosa are already dying. KCT and the PWI is providing way too much, just rattling machine guns for them to deal with, and this is becoming a big enough problem that we need to have a bit of combined effort to take it down. So Su-22M4, I mean, it's a good bombing response. There is also some nice response looking for those F-16 AMLUs. Might be able to get him? No, he does get out, unfortunately. And if you look now at Jaegeri Enjoyer, Stuttruppen are through, KCT are through. Damaged, yes, and most of the PWIs are gone, but still enough there to cause trouble. And a Sokol up here is, I mean, this is pretty nice. So the PWIs not taking as much damage as I would have thought, but maybe able to get, yeah, a couple kills in the Core Mariner. That's worth it. But this Moderna is going to struggle, so even though he was healed up by Computer, those KCT infantry, I mean, okay, yeah, jeez. 2A42 autocannon doing some good work there. Jeez. No complaints about that, but it will still be difficult to keep him alive. And there is still more fighting going on over here. Heinz is now backing up Crippling Depression pretty significantly with Merkava 1s and Zeldas, and it's a little bit, it's not a 1v2 here because Heinz is also pushing forward in the center, but it certainly it certainly did help hold this position, as there's just a single unit of Norland's Jaegeri that are actually preventing me from taking this town outright. So again, just a game of absolute inches, but I have lost my infantry there, and now we are going to have to take a different tack. So the T-90S is still here. My WZ-551s are going to be moving up, trying to shoot the gap into the woods here, see what they can do, but this, I think, ends up proving to be a little bit of a mistake. 2A5NL is spotted, and man, I wanted to kill this. I don't actually have any ATGM planes in this deck. I am playing as Red Dragons, which is always a mistake, just to begin with, but I don't know, it is what it is. The forward stance in Boris has allowed us to get a +1 for a significant amount of time, so we're up 100 points to 0. If we can maintain this offensive, even with Feder countercapped, that should be okay, but Core Mariner coming in, my plane getting a little bit overzealous on purpose, so I let this guy go in and chase and provide bait, as the Feebow was able to get another kill on enemy radar AA. Just, they thought I was overextending, the Feebow was there to take advantage, but here we do have Crippling Depression moving forward, and that is going to be a problem, as there's also a Baz in the air from Heinz, and yeah, so artillery going in here, but it's cluster. It won't really do anything to enemy infantry here, and we can see that Stutroopen are just fine. They're going to be shaken for a minute, but they'll be okay, they'll pull through, they'll be alright, and this woods fight is going to be just ridiculously brutal. Look at that, 5 units of Core Mariner, KCT, Stutroopen, all of that, and even a Cheetah Prandtl to make sure that air power has a really rough time surviving that. So at this point, yeah, it was kind of rough. So Computer did cap Boris. I told him not to, but he did anyway, and it was much appreciated as it let me keep moving troops forward. Hwasong Chungs are going to be bringing out more infantry, ATGM infantry and Hwasong Chungs. I really like this. Iglas, I mean, it may not be the best competitive thing ever, but the Iglas off the Hwasong Chungs are usually unexpected. You do get anti-air for the price of a slightly expensive vehicle here, and the ATGMs are, of course, nice anti-tank. So you can fend off the air and the ground pretty well, usually scare people back a little bit with that as well. And, I don't know, this looks a little bit, well, Commandosi are nice. The napalm here was pretty nice, but most of things survived. So the Core Mariners are actually down around the side as well. So these guys just move back out of it. No real kills there, and the Core Mariners this far in. I mean, if you'd taken one of these guys and just sent them right down the sideline, we would have had a hell of a time stopping him. I think you just wanted a more cohesive hold on Feder, though, and that's why they're still where they are. But you can see at this point my aggression has been stymied. So forming a defensive pocket in Boris, their Monarch is still holding with a very forward position here, just quad-stacked infantry everywhere, actually able to survive some bombing runs too. I mean, that's 4 Panzer Jaeger. Anything comes close to that, infantry or vehicles, they're going to have a rough day for just 40 points. So we talked about it afterward, and he said, yeah, I mean, it's easier on micro, that's for sure, and it's surprisingly resilient to getting pushed, which, I mean, I can't argue with. He's held a forward position this entire time against Heinz, who himself is a nightmare to play against on the defensive, as you guys have seen earlier on the channel. So, PWI is leading the way, BTR-40 is getting stunned and panicked as those M2 Brownings do what they do best, and Stutroopen behind are going to be getting those AT-4s, I believe, online and killing the BTRs pretty quickly. Now, Commandosi do crack back for that, and these guys are going to be very difficult to chew through, but if the PWIs can sort of lighten them up a little bit, that won't be the worst thing. I do also mark bombing runs incoming, so from me and from Computer, J7H's coming down, trying to get some kills here, and it's not the worst thing. There's a 2A5NL in there, some Core Mariners that are close by, and the Stutroopen are just wiped off the face of the earth. So we do get some nice work, but the Core Mariners still being alive is just dreadful, and of course we did also take a little bit of heat from it. Just look at that, Baz, Block 15 OCU, F-16A. Early on, we had so many bombers that got decent effect that they were just like, nope, no more. We're going to ASF the hell out of you. It's going to be a rough time. But just able to get a little bit of revenge, and the 27 SK is able to get out with a single kill, which, I mean, hey, there were 4 for the enemy, now there's 3. That's an improvement in my book. But reinforcements from Computer coming up, and they're going to run themselves right into Core Mariner, which is going to be a really tough thing to deal with, particularly because these 10-point vehicles could do pretty good work with their Groms. Now, they're not what most people go for, but I've had the Groms actually do amazing work, particularly against armor. at close range. Mochutsen sparring with those Core Mariners, Scout 2s unloading Commandosi. This could get deadly fast, but I mean, they're panicked by the explosions of their own vehicles. Bombing run coming in, this time from Jaeger 90 Enjoyer, and those Commandosi have to watch out. But a MiG 29913S maybe getting a kill? Nope, and a Baz is coming in to get revenge. Let's see, as my J7Hs are going to absolutely pound these positions. So 23 here, 28 there, the bombs coming in, and down to 2. I think the other group was entirely, nope, down to 9 there, but very much a really nice bombing run I was pretty happy with. We did lose a J7H, but frankly, I'll take that. That was fine with me. I'm okay with that every day and twice on Sunday. So if we look at this side, though, I have not been spending as much as I should. The Banteng Fago and the Hwasong Chungs are not miracle workers. T90S, I was trying to get some cheeky kills in the Merkava 1s if I could. They're 65 points apiece, and pretty good against infantry as well. And you can see the range here across the open ground does let me pound in pretty well. 5 points of damage off that first shot, 4 points off of the second, and if I can get a third shot, it might just be able to... Nope, because I smoked myself. So I lost line of sight on that because of my own defensive posture here. Given that our opponents had air superiority and that there was a Israel player on that side, I did not want my tanks to die a horrible, horrible death if I could prevent it. So more smoke going down, just trying to bring the woods with me as I sneak forward here one more time to get those Merkava 1s. I'm not really sure why they weren't moved back. They might have been left out there as bait, but yeah, so now they're moving back into the deep forest, and then my T-90 should be retreating here any second. Big bomber coming in, and there is a response, so MLU with those nice radar MRAMs is going to be giving him a hard time. Down he goes, and there has been a bit of a recovery on this side as well, so Computer moving up with Commandosi and Mochutsen, but encountering the remains of those Core Mariners, and this will be a hard fight, even for 12 Mochutsen to deal with. So retreated there from the Blue 4 team, and you can see this could be going worse, right? So at this point, Bravo has been countercapped, Feder has been countercapped, so it's just 0 points to 0 points here, but we're up at 142, and I was feeling decently comfortable. So because this is a longer game, we are going to speed things up here just a little bit in the mid-game. You can see a very nice pullback from Jaeger 90, so if we switch to his perspective, he's moving these guys back. The 2A5 is still anchoring this formation on the open ground. The Commandosi don't really want to engage with that. One tank shot in, and very much a good position there. And I don't know, I mean, he still has a nice hold here. Heinz is saying he has 2 Kernoses, but yeah, this is what we were saying. They were bitching the whole game about the number of bombers we were using. It's nice to see those sorts of communications going on. Of course, none of that we could see, and down come those Kernos bombs, and we lose the countercap. So at this point, it is dangerous. This is not really a full hold on this part of Feder, and you can see it's going to be difficult to get a secure position there. So if Feder's ticking for the entire half of the game that remains, pardon the chair squeaks, if that remains ticking at a +1 for the entire remaining time of this game, we will lose. So that means we have to push back in Feder, we have to countercap here, if at all possible. If possible as well, I'd still like to take Boris, and you can see I'm prepping a second offensive here ever so slowly. Korshuns are very nice with those Brahms and the Susong Po Sankolis missiles, but we do have helicopters moving in from Crippling Depression, and that's certainly not going to be anything that we can win for free. So we are just sort of staging things right now. Cheap infantry and BTRs moving forward, and the TOE-2s had me really worried. So in response, we're going to see one of the Hwasong Chungs moving over, trying to get to the edge of the woods to use those Iglas to take those guys out. So we're not out yet, right? I mean, the initial offensive failed. I really wanted it to survive. We have lost Toehold and Feder, but I mean, we did recover the woods here at great cost to the Blue 4 team, so it's not all doom and gloom. And this was interesting. So these guys, 80 points each, 160 points each for both of these squads of helicopters, pushing really far forward blind. So Machbets are going to have a really nice field day there, except if they lose line of sight. And I don't know, this was interesting. So kill on the Machbet. This is actually really, I didn't see it at the time, so that's why I'm doing the shaky commentary here, as this is all kind of new to me. But that wasn't the worst. I mean, the KPZ's getting kills on the ground against overzealous AA, which then clears out the AA and lets the KHSs do their work. So, oh, really nice tactic there. You do love to see it. I have a Fibao circling around behind, a couple of Chalmaho 5s moving up as well to provide some nice fire there, and the Führungsgruppe, unfortunately taking artillery fire, just guessed where it was and killed. So now we're taking at +1, well, our opponents are taking at +1 again as Feder's capped, but we have lost Boris. Block 15 coming in and trying to shoot in after one of my planes, but this was a little bit of bait again. I was a little too slow on the uptick though, and the 27 SKs are not going to be able to get their missiles on target fast enough. He was damaged, which means he's going to be out for a little while, but I'm not sure if it will be long enough. MiG-29 coming in, Helo Hunter again, Scout Defenders killed, and I wanted a second shot on those ATGM Helos here and here, but I didn't see them. They were landed, and down goes my Helo Hunter, unfortunately. But Hwasong Chung's, the Iglas were off. I didn't want them shooting in at planes, which they will occasionally do, and because of that, they don't kill the Fennec TOE-2s as quickly as they should, and I start losing WZs, never something you want to do. I lose a Korshun, which will, of course, come back to bite me. Now the Iglas are on, and we can handle those TOE-2 helicopters without too much trouble. So, Jogostai, Bochung-su, a big push from infantry here. I probably should have been smoking to cut down on the fire support from these towns, but we have KPZs from Der Monarch, we have a ZTQ-62G from my own forces, and I don't know, I was feeling kind of okay, and then here comes a Fighting Falcon, and that's going to really suck. So it does look like he was shooting for the Hwasong Chungs, and he does get them. BTRs, one of them surviving, but I don't know, I had a lot of infantry supporting vehicles here, and I've lost most of them. There's also mortar fire coming in, and these guys are trying to cross a lot of open ground into enemy forces. If we take a look, there are some ATGM teams, Rovli 890, Norlandsjäger, a mixed force from Heinz, and Crippling Depression here, as well as more besides just behind it, waiting in the wings. Look at that. You don't see that every day. M113Gs with, I mean, I'm assuming those are probably Stormer or just some sort of line infantry for Crippling Depression here, and if they were up and in, I would never have made this move, which might well be why they were left behind. And you can see I'm getting shredded in the open ground, and it's going to be another bad engagement there. And in the meantime, Jaeger 90 Enjoyer, oh, sorry, hate it when it does that. Meanwhile, Jaeger 90 Enjoyer has refreshed his Corps Mariners, he's refreshed his Stu-Truppen, a couple of Genie as well, and more IFVs here, looking for another push this way, and I don't know, I guess it would have been nice to have a couple of units of infantry out that way. Kub M4s and Modernas are not going to like encountering those guys in the woods again. So it almost seems like just a tried and true tactic from Jaeger 90 on this map, maybe his favorite thing to do there, and I certainly can't blame him for that decision. My T90S, unfortunately, down to 1 strength, and a couple of Kurnoses going in, trying to get the kill there. Let's see what those bombs can do. Down he goes, and the Merkava ones have survived, while I've lost a very expensive tank. We did also lose the recon tank up this way, and my Korshuns, although they are doing good work, are not going to have enough ATGMs to really make it worthwhile. Tankashesho doing good fire support, but we're just not going to make it into the town off that push, and now I've lost most of my defensive force here, which will make it very hard for me to hold Boris should the worst happen. So, moving into ×2 and actually ×3 for just a moment, again, as this game does continue and continue and continue. It's one of the ones I like to see, though, because it means that there's a lot to learn from and a lot to do differently the next time, as the game is more of a stalemate than it is any sort of one-sided brawl. More artillery coming in, and now we have engagements over on this side. So the Corps Mariners slamming into Komandozi, bombs on the way from my own J7Hs, or J7Cs, I think both actually, but AA moving up, able to take us down, and that's not really going to be that worthwhile, as Komandozi are getting killed, and Motschützen with Moderna are going to have a hard time holding back the tide on that side of the field. But second wave is here, WZ is moving forward, Zanshi trying to get into the towns on this side, which we do manage, and the Tinker Shashao just might be able to get the job done. KPZ is moving forward, Nordlandsjägeri really struggling to hold that front line, and I don't know, it's not over yet, right? So these guys, of course the WZs are wonderful at killing infantry at range, the Fallskirmjäger are not going to like that at all, and if my Zanshi can get up and into these towns again, maybe we might be able to kill the enemy command infantry that I suspect are over there. But Genie are doing wonderful work against Motschützen, and more artillery panicking and pounding into those Modernas, both of them just losing combat effectiveness faster than you would believe from those status effects. But we do also have some napalm back in this side, and just to take a look at the neutral, where was this? So we had a cap here from Der Monarch, and they had a cap, yeah, so last time it was in the town, this time it's STR IPBV in the woods from Crippling Depression, so very nice for him for moving that and not doing the same thing twice. And here comes the counter push, all of those M113Gs right down the pipe and into the towns here, into my beleaguered forces. Bombtank goes not quite able to get up and into the town quite yet, and the bombing runs and artillery have just made it so that there's really nothing left here. So I have paid for my aggression there twice over. T90S barely surviving an MLU. He shouldn't have. That should have been a kill pretty much every time. So better lucky than good there for me, and my T90S at least is still alive for now. So we do have the cap, but it looks like that was just because of a little bit of fire there in the woods. I didn't really notice that. I thought that maybe that was from the fire over on the right-hand side, and because of that, I don't have the appropriate response. Hwasong Chung bringing up more ATGMs as I do start to see this blue wave coming in, but ooh, come on, I'm not going in for that plane. We do have a complete loss on this side of the woods, and with that, it's very hard to hold the town. So if you can cut off, as a blue 4 player on that side of the field, you can cut off this reinforcement route, it's extremely difficult for your opponent to get into Fetter. So that's probably why Jaeger90 Enjoyer does like that sort of approach quite that much. And now we have a push coming in from Der Monarch, Motschützen, and SPZs, moving forward into the woods, trying to get some work done in the center here, as we did see Heinz's forces, as well as crippling the Prussians on this side. T90S shooting in, and Bontengfa goes doing nice fending these guys off, but the Hwasong Chungs are no longer the most cost-effective option here, so the Leopards are going to bite into them pretty effectively, and my T90S is the only thing that's actually able to kill those infantry support vehicles. So, double stack of HQ7s, questionable buy. I'd done it before this had really started going strong, and I really should have been bringing up more ATGMs for these sections of the woods, some scout infantry as well, and a couple of cheaper tanks to pad out my defensive firing concave to make sure I could keep this zone alive. But Merkava 3Bs are encountered, Rova 90 as well, and bombing runs flatten the push from Der Monarch, those quad-stacked infantry making a nice bombing target on the offensive, even as effective as they are on the defensive. And computers Mi-25s all out of ammunition, not able to quite stop this push as those YPRs get their guns online, and these guys have to retreat or face some very unpleasant ends. But this really was amazing. Both of the Modernas are still online this late in the game, despite facing infantry, despite facing bombing runs, despite facing a heck of a lot of targeting from the blue 4 player, and they will absolutely savage the YPRs in less time than you can even say that sentence. So, very nice work there, and here comes the second push. Infantry moving across the open ground, my Hwasong Chung's taken out, my ATGM team's taken out by Dragoners, and just the sheer amount of fire support here, including those STRFs, and I have one damaged T90S blocking this side of the formation, a couple of WZs, out of ammunition, not able to kill the Dragoners in the open ground like they should, and those guys, if they get in, will cause a lot of trouble. You can see a couple of Chanmo Ho 5s coming forward, and I'm trying to just sort of do a tank push on this side to really kill those guys in the open ground and discourage the 1A5 NO2s from being effective. But now we have enemy bombing runs returning the favor from our early game sort of pressure, and the Modernas are taking a little bit of fire. So are infantry fighting vehicles, and my own infantry were headed up this way, trying to stem the bleeding in Fetter when they should have been dealing with minding my own business here, as it's very much an ugly situation. Artillery coming in is stunning the T90S when I need him to be shooting against those Leopards, but the Chanmo Ho 5s will do some good work, I think, if they can get their guns online. No, it's just the T90S, they're doing even more work. Oh man, I do love this tank. It's not the best super heavy ever, but the 22 frontal armor is pretty nice. 23 armor piercing, I have no problem with that. So, silver linings as they are. But Stuttruppen are going to be a little bit overwhelmed here, just the sheer amount of stuff they would deal with. Corps Mariners stopping the KPZs in their tracks, and actually no, getting shot decently well. Some pretty good damage on them, but yeah, once all those guns get online, the answer to quality sometimes really is quantity, but Leopard 2A5 to the side armor is going to make that a very short-lived bit of success. Korshun and Geogox Dai, I wish I had them over on the right-hand side, but they will do some decent work here, unless there's a bombing run coming in, and an MLU leading the way. Oh, my apologies. I always have to sneeze when I record and never when I'm not recording. I think it's just because my mouth is moving that quickly, but I do unfortunately lose Chanmo Ho 5. My T90S was retreated, trying to stay away from that as he did take some bombing runs there. And you can see now it's just M113Gs from Crippling Depression pushing in, trying to really secure this town, and my own WZs are going to have a hard time because we can no longer fight off their bombers. So that's going to give them air superiority in the late game, and that's a very hard thing to fight against. So Kub M4's doing some fending off here. They are still at a +1 with 6 minutes left. It's going to be one hell of a close game if we can just hold. But that requires us to hold the counter cap in Boris. I'm not sure I can get it done. WZ shooting in as best they can, Tenka Sheshao shooting in as best they can, but the sheer amount of fire support, artillery also coming in, looking for our CV, but settling for just demolishing and panicking everything we have on this side. And my own tanks are doing what they can, but they're not the most effective way to kill infantry quickly, which is what we need right now. Smoke also protecting an STRV 121 and automatic as they come up. My Feebel, I think, has been lost at this point. Either that or we'll see him again here in just a second, looking at getting a kill on the automatic. No longer needed, though, as we did get a tank kill on that from the side. Just nice shot from the T90S, clearing out the back end of that push, but it's not enough as Crippling Depression is going to get some success here, and my tank of Shashao are bled dry. A couple of Kernoses coming in, and they have spotted our command vehicle, which is going to be a really... oh geez, never mind. They'll settle for a 170-point tank. Fighting Falcon coming in from Depression, and that is going to be going after the command vehicle there. We also have a couple of planes preventing any sort of our own support, just circling over on that side, waiting for our own planes to snack on, and the Fighting Falcon bombs should be able to get... ooh, no. What the hell? This guy's still alive. We have a command vehicle and that's it in this zone. I'm calling out more WZ-51s, trying to get more infantry up this way to stem the tide, and just desperation sort of work as... yeah, if we lose that command vehicle, we're well and truly toast. So AH-64 escorts taking a pounding from infantry on the ground, but it does look like there are some genies there that we can't quite see, and indeed a triple stack getting their M9 napalm rounds online. And my Zanshi are encountering a brick wall here. The WZ is encountering a brick wall. STRFs have more armor, they have a better gun. The STRV-121 is able to kill them pretty well, and down goes the command vehicle. With 4 minutes left in the game, we do just lose. That's +1 ticking, and now with 4 minutes at a +2, our opponents will be able to make up the difference in that early score. So, a couple of bombers coming in, trying to get some of those rovers, trying to get the STRFs, but you can see the Blue 4 planes fending us off really, really well there, and it's not enough. This might have been enough if my big tank was still alive, but he is gone. I have also lost the cheaper ones for fire support there, and I'm not going to be able to fend that off. In the meantime, one of the Modernos has finally died from computer, and this rear hold here is not enough to recap Fetter in time. So that is going to be, with the last couple minutes of desperation push from Der Monarch, but not quite able to get a kill on the enemy command vehicle, that is going to be all she wrote for this game. So bear with me for just a second, and we'll take a look at the kills and losses in this very, very desperate 3v3 match. Just one more second here, and there we go. Ah, geez, so many alarms going off. Okay, so in terms of kills and losses, it ended up being a really good game for the Blue 4 team. I don't think this was at the start so much as it was really just at the end, blowing through my zone in particular. I went 33-75, 38-50, which, I mean, that's bad. It's not terrible, but it is bad. 21-88 to 24-85, 21-13 to 3005, and meanwhile the most positive player on their team was Heinz, per usual, with 36-15, 28-20, so he's a very competent attacker indeed, and a very well-deserved victory. So, in terms of units that did well for my team anyway, the Hilo Hunter's not among them, not able to make up the points off the Scout Defender and Fennec Toad 2, but Scout Tank does pretty well. Feebal, 3 automatic kills, I'll take that any day, that's pretty nice there. T90S, no, I mean he anchored that side, but again, just shy on making up the points. ZTQ is a little closer, and the J7H bombers were really amazing, so between them, 4 units of Core Mariner is always nice, and the RBS-56 just the icing on the cake. Core Shuns did pretty well. I do love these guys. I think they're a little bit underrated. Killing a couple rovers, killing a P93, an M41A1, that's pretty nice as well. And then the second T90S, this guy might have just been worth it. So he was the second one we called out, stayed alive until the last part of the game there. A lot of Leopard 1A5s, STRF 9040, a couple units of infantry as well. That's pretty good. Can't really ask for more on a game that we lost that hard at the end. Particularly, I say we, that I lost that hard on the end. So that's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you all for hanging around, and we'll see you again real soon.